Hey, what's up guys? We're back again with the top 5 best decks in Clash Royale and break down why they're so strong. At the end of the season, when the most talented players in the game were trying their absolute hardest, these were the decks they used. These decks will always remain relevant in the meta because the core card combos work so well together. It's time to take a look at the best players in the game's top decks and assert dominance. Lots of love to everyone that's using creator code SirTag, making high for videos like this one possible. The ranked 5 player in the world buried pros alive with this graveyard deck. It's refreshing to see so much variety in the top 5 best decks in the game. No matter what playstyle you guys have, we're gonna have a different deck for you. Also, speaking of playstyle, this guy is fast and furious. Going in for a lumberjack balloon at the start of the match is diabolical. So we'll wait for that to hit our tower, then we're gonna go for the tornado. If you try to tornado it before it gets a hit, you're gonna throw a fit because that thing will not pull and it will stay locked onto your tower. So if you were wondering how this deck works, opposed to our opponent, it is way better in the later stages of the game. So if you survive the early game, you will dominate in double or triple elixir. If you go in for graveyards and single elixir and you throw a graveyard at your opponent, it's going to cost 5 elixir. But it's never going to just be a graveyard. You're going to be forced to spend more money. You're going to go in for a poison as well to counteract a bait card like a Goblin Gang or a Dark Goblin. And that's going to bring you to a total of so much more elixir of 9. And then it's likely not just going to be 9 elixir. You're probably going to drop a bar barrel to tank for your graveyard. And if you're doing all of that, you are going to be spending a total of 11 elixir spent. If your opponent just goes in for a simple Goblin Gang of 3, you are going to be spending 8 more elixir than them. That is 8 more elixir for them to eat up your tower on the other side if they decide to pressure you. So it's important to not go for graveyards into Goblin Gangs in the early stages of the game, because either you're going to get 0 damage in a -2 elixir trade, or you're going to lose the game by overcommitting and you're not going to have any way of recovering because they're going to counter push and kill you. So it's important to realize that this deck is functionally overpowered in double and triple elixir, because when you get to later stages of the game, you're also going to have your splash damage with the Ice Wizard Tornado, the Goblin Stein, and Poison. So you're going to have way more ways of pulling off awesome plays, of clumping up your opponent's cards and getting value. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you don't know, now you know. Also, we're throwing down an Ice Wizard here, and I wonder if this guy is just throwing random stuff at us. Like, I think I can graveyard because it's double elixir. We've hit our timer, and time's up for you, big dog. I'm able to easily poison to eviscerate the skeletons. The Goblin Cage Brawler is coming through, and there's not much you can do because we're up elixir. We had good counter pushing cards, and we waited for our moment to pounce. That's how this deck works. And if you want to maximize your plays and be a little bit better than me, you're probably not going to want to cycle your Goblin Cage like I did. You're probably going to want to go and pull back the Lumberjack so it dies far enough away so then it doesn't give your opponent good value with their Lumberjack raging up the balloon. But you don't have to play perfect and you'll still win. This is a very easy win with suboptimal gameplay on my end while commentating and explaining the deck. But if you want to beat a lot of mid-ladder players, you might not play perfectly when you start to learn the deck. So it's good that the deck has a bit of training wheels, allowing you to still find success while you're learning to optimize and get the maximum value from all of your cards. And it shouldn't be a surprise when you've got Ice Wizard Tornado with Goblin Cage, because not much is breaking through, especially the mid-ladder monsters. Play this deck if you're sick and tired of losing to Lumberjack Balloon spammers. You'll be popping their parade every time. The ranked 4 player in the world explosively outplayed his opponents with this cycle deck. This deck is the exact opposite of the last one and embraces the cycle spirit. You have no repercussions of going in for a drill at the start. In fact, I would say it's one of the best plays to do with this deck. If you catch your opponent without a Dark Prince or a Valkyrie like our opponent here, they're going to take a ton of damage. And also, you don't need the adequate support of like a poison or maybe going in for like a tank for the drill. It's nice to have an Evo Bomber for sure, but if you have a drill by itself, it's 4 elixir. If the opponent gets counter push, they're probably going to take a little bit of damage from the goblins anyway. And you're going to have cannon, you're going to have skeletons, and also Ice Spirit for incredibly cost-effective defenses that don't cost that much elixir. So not only efficient, but they barely cost anything. You could get a King Tower activation with Tornado. You can also just string together skeletons and Ice Spirit defense against way higher cost cards like even a Mega Knight. It's nice and refreshing to have that type of defense. This deck also, it might look like a drill deck on the surface, but it entirely is revolving around Evo Bomber. So you might even notice that our evolutions are Ice Spirit for better defenses against, you know, big beatdown decks. And also the drill is not really as good as Evo Bomber because the Evo Bomber guarantees value with Tornado if you get a good lineup. But right now, what I could do if I just want to be toxic is go for a Tornado with Evo Bomber here, kill the Skeleton King and bounce onto the tower and probably just win the game. I don't know if he's able to defend this. Like, It's practically undefendable with Tornado, especially if you make predictions on your opponent's cards. So if I was playing against someone a little bit better, what I would do is I would go for the Bomber. They would make a prediction on the Bomber, and then I would Tornado their cards back, and I would guarantee that I would get a good trade every single time. These people are still good that I'm playing against. I mean, it's early on in the season. They're about to hit Ultimate Champion before the season even like commences. But, oh, this is an Elixir Golem deck. All right, all right. The gloves are coming off from this guy. He is bound to apply unlimited Elixir to us. So let's see how many Bombers we can cycle here. This is going to be a fun one. I kind of want to cycle Log early so I can get back to another card to go and counter this Archer on the other side. And then I want to fully focus on the right side with using a cannon and then also trying to get a Goblinstein ability, but it didn't work out. Guess I'm going to have to Tornado here. I'm going to pop down another Goblinstein because that's how this deck works. You get back to whatever you need, whenever you need it. And yeah, should be a solid defense. As you guys can see, quite a clean cleanup. And we're back to Evo Bomber like we never even left. Wait, this is what Elixir Golem deserves. We're pulling it backward, so then it dies and doesn't even get to cross the bridge. The Evo Bomber is leaving destruction on our opponent's doorstep, and he wasn't even able to cross the river with a full Elixir Golem. If that doesn't scream overpowered, I don't know what does. This is by far one of the best decks in Clash Royale, especially if you have high enough skill to use it. I'm not gonna lie, playing a drill deck without a big spell is gonna take some getting used to, but it's well worth it. When you can outmaneuver your opponent to the degree that you saw in this game, there's nothing more satisfying in Clash Royale. Decks like this are the reason that I'm able to play Clash Royale for 7 years now and still enjoy the game. A previous rank 1 in the world finisher updated his deck to become even more menacing. The next deck that finished number 3 in the world has an entirely different setup, but a similar premise. Instead of Evo Bomber, you're going to be using Magic Archer, and you're going to be spamming Evolved Skeletons and Wall Breakers as your win conditions and evolutions. So with this deck, it used to be horrible against Lava Hound, and you would automatically lose, but since you have Goblinstein and Magic Archer, you have layers to anti-air answers. And because of that, if you match into Lava Hound, like maybe we are right now, we're going to have a pretty good matchup, I would say. Also, I love going for Wall Breakers right here, behind the Goblinstein, and then the guy's probably going to have like, I don't know, possibly like Barbarians, and he won't know what to do. Like if he's sitting there with Barbarians and wondering like, what do I do? He's just really losing the plot. I think we can go in for a Magic Archer on this Inferno Dragon as well and still have it go in the side that we want. And then I can plant down a Miner here as well. Ooh, could I snipe the Bomber with a Miner? I think that's possible. And then we can go for Wall Breakers as well. So if the Magic Archer is locked and loaded on the tower with multiple layers of defenses to it, that's hilarious how much value we're getting. Not only have we desecrated like half of the tower there, it's way more than half the tower actually. He's cycling 8 Elixir into the Abyss of the Goblinstein. We have our Goblinstein still counter pushing, forcing out a 4 Elixir investment from our opponent, and he hasn't even been able to go in for the Lava Hound yet. When you play a cycle deck to this degree, you can keep your opponent on their back foot, not knowing what to do when you constantly have momentum in your favor. Ideally, I could activate King Tower here with this Goblin Cage, so I'm going to try to do that right quick. See if it works out in our favor. It's not the easiest King Tower activation, but maybe, yes! We made it happen. Let's go. All right, he's going to Lava Hound, so we don't want him to do that. So let's go Wall Breakers. He still hasn't Lava Hound, and it's like 1 minute and 15 seconds. Bro, this is unbelievable. Okay, so I think the strategy is to go Goblinstein into him, cycle as many Magic Archers as we can, and evolve Skeleton Split with a Miner. I think that will work out really well because we'll have the Goblin Cage possibly from our opponent, which isn't super scary, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's go and split our skeletons. Let's go in for a bomb tower here. Then all that stuff gets pumped up into our cards. And we can go for another Goblinstein, actually. We can tornado all of his units back so the bomber just dies. And I don't even need to pop the ability. This is so dumb that I can get away with that. The shenanigans are unrivaled with this strat. 34 seconds remaining, and I think we want to keep piling on the pressure on the right side. There's no way that he is going to be able to defend that if I apply pressure right now. And he might not know. I don't think bro's going to know. Oh, we got Tornado and Goblinstein too. So I think it's in our best interest to go Goblinstein at the bridge. So then when he lightnings, he doesn't hit everything he wants. We pop the ability immediately. And then we're able to shred all of his stuff. So then he only has supporting cards. And then it's just all dead. It's just all gone. He's not able to cycle back to another Evo Bomber. And as you can see, even when you match into a deck that would typically counter this, Because Goblinstein got added and you remove the Valkyrie and you remove the Knight, the anti-air answers and the main weakness of this deck is better than ever. It swapped a matchup that you couldn't possibly win into one that you like seeing. This deck has finished #1 in the world more times than I can count, and the updated version of it right now that we're playing is an absolute monster. When it's played well, it feels unstoppable with no bad matchups. Again, it's a higher skill strategy, but it's definitely worth picking up and playing because each game you match with it, you're gonna get better. The ranked 2 player in the world shamelessly slaughtered pros with evolved Pekka. I said earlier in the day we're gonna have a lot of different playstyles on display, and this deck is embracing the no skill nature. We had a few high skill decks, and now it's gonna be the skillful strat of cycling Pekka in the back very first play. And you can get away with this too if you have Fisherman to activate King Tower or pull win conditions away, so then they can't hurt you. I'm gonna use a bomber and I'm gonna let the mortar lock onto the tower, because if the mortar locked onto the bomber would just die, and then we would take more damage in the long run. But if I keep his cards away from countering the bomber, we're gonna get a lot more value since the bomber can actually kill what it intends to. We're gonna go arrows so we can clean up the spear goblins, maybe pave a pathway for the Ram Rider to kill the cannon cart. If that cannon cart died on his side of the map, that would have been huge. If he doesn't cycle anything with it, it would have died, but man, a little bit unfortunate. I could have went Fisherman in the middle, but prefer to go Ghost here, and I'm also gonna go Bomber. Remember the guy's got spear goblins? Yes! Outplayed! So sometimes you can mix in low skill strategies, a little bit of skill, and then get even more of a benefit. But we haven't even exuded half of our power. This is the power of the deck. I am holding in my hands the most feared card in Clash Royale. Even after multiple nerfs, the Evolved Pekka is such a menace. If you defend with it and you kill cards, it heals up, and then it's strong. And then it feels really wrong because on your opponent's side of the map with like 50% extra health, and it's just, watch. I'm gonna eat the damage so I can get more health. I'm gonna eat the damage for more health. I want more elixir out here, okay? And then we're gonna go and pull in your cards using our Fisherman. Also, another thing that's fun is if you can get a Goblinstein in front of it, sometimes you can just tank from the Pekka for even longer. I goofed and messed up, but just imagine a universe where the Pekka was tanked for a little bit longer, and then it just stayed alive for freaking forever. The Ram Rider, though, the game's just over. There's like nothing you can do. There's negative ways of defending this. And then if you lose the tower, guess what, bro? I can Evo Bomber on top of it and then try to 3 crown. I'm not going to do it because I'm not that disrespectful, but as you guys can see, this deck is absolutely unfair. Right as soon as we hit double elixir, we hit up his tower and destroyed him. So if you want to play one of the easier decks to play, this is it. And if you play against your opponents and play half competently, they're going to be throwing fits. As exemplified by this guy, because he rage quit and didn't even want to play the match. Super easy stuff, and let's bounce on to the last best deck of the day. You might not believe it, but it somehow gets better than this. The rank 1 player in the world lightning his way to the top of the leaderboard with a shocking deck. We have finally found the spammiest deck of them all, and it's only fitting that we're playing against Hades. He knows what's coming for him. Got the death symbol near his name, and he's ready to get blown to bits. So I'm going to go in for a heal spirit up top, and then I'm going to go and sacrifice the bomber, and then I'm going to go prince. There's a lot of things that I dropped right there, but it's still fine. I think that if we're matching to someone with Dark Prince and Lumberjack, it's likely that we're playing against a Mega Knight player or something of the sort. So, spam versus spam. Who's going to reign supreme? Probably our deck, right? It would only make sense. In the battle of the spam, the #1 deck in the game will supersede everything. But this guy's playing really well. So, the fact that he's piecing apart our units from a distance with the Musketeer, I could Lightning, but that's my entire elixir bank. I can't really afford to do that right now. I want to go Heal Spirit, and then I want to go Bomber. I think that's going to be our best bet. But maybe the Heal Spirit can keep the Bomber alive a little bit longer because it's just going to force our opponent to cycle some other stuff. And no, he just cycles a Golem in the back. Wait, what the heck? Dude doesn't know what he's playing into at all. So we're able to cannibalize absolutely any Prince that he drops with our Prince, but that's not what happens. Bro goes in for an Electric Dragon. So generally in this situation, it's going to be nice for us just to Mega Minion early on. It's going to be hard for him to kill that card. We have a lot of damage per second with it, and most of the time they're going to have like a Lumberjack or ground defensive cards that can't kill the Mega Minion. So unlike, you know, most decks that have Fishermen, it's not necessarily as reliable to activate King Tower for us, but it doesn't matter. We can still get a lot of value with other options. I'm going to go for a Rage as well, so we're able to kill all those annoying pesky air cards. And then I think plopping down a Prince would be nice because he's not going to have many distractions anymore. After he cycles a Goblin Gang, sure, they're going to be gleefully spamming at the bridge, but they're not going to be super happy after they identify that they don't have good responses to the Prince. So we should be able to kill most of the Musketeer here. Even if it doesn't die, I think it's going to spell doom for our dude. What if we keep it alive for the express purpose of using it as a pathway for our bombs from our bomber? As I said before, like the bomber in earlier matches was devastating. Even with this deck, it is devastating because you have the knight tanking and then you have the heal spear and then you could range it up for even more value. We're not even doing anything. That is a bomber without sauce, and he is still destroying everything that our opponent owns. The Evolved Bomber is still alive. Like, the fact that we can apply pressure that the opponent has to respond to means that they can't really have the elixir to cost effectively deal with the bomber too. If you play this deck at full capacity, you defend with Prince, you go in for a giant and a heal spirit, and it heals up your push. Well, they're so concentrated on that, the bomber can end their existence before they even know what happened. And since we had such a ridiculous duel, I didn't get to talk about why Giant is superior in this deck to Goblin Giant and other tags. This deck is entirely optimized to be as aggressive as possible. Giant has more health points than the Goblin Giant for less elixir. And that extra 1 elixir that you would spend on the Goblin Giant, you could throw into a heal spirit to keep your push alive longer. Be closer to a rage to eliminate bait cards that are swarming your stuff, while enhancing your Prince's already fast movement speed. Or getting to an Evolved Bomber earlier like you saw in this match, which can entirely turn the tide of the battle. I don't know about you guys, but a Goblin Giant would not do what the Evolved Bomber did there. Much rather have our bomber board than 2 measly spear goblins. The rank 1 player in the world constantly pelts opponents with this deck. His spam leaves them no room to breathe, think, or go on offense themselves. It's kind of sad playing against this deck, watching your towers crumble when you're not even allowed to play the game. Bomber blast the like button, subscribe for more daily content, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.